This is Rosen Institute's Your Law Firm, where Lee Rosen and Ned Days cover management, marketing, finance, and new technologies for building the practice you deserve. Here's Lee Rosen.
It's good to be with you today from Yerevan, Armenia, where we're still hanging out. Interestingly, we've been to a couple of ballets since we've been here. This country has a long tradition of ballet. We're not very far from Russia, and ballet has long been a big thing in the region. Now, I'm not a gigantic ballet fan, but these shows that we've been to, they've been pretty epic. Last night's performance, it had nearly 200 people involved between the dancers and a choir and the orchestra. It was a big, bold, loud ballet with lots of participation from the percussion section of the orchestra, lots of action on the stage, high drama. It kept me wide awake. And if I'm going to the ballet, well, then this is the kind of ballet that I need to see.
It's time for your tech tip. As the year draws to a close, we have received two early presents: mobile device operating system upgrades for iOS and Android. Yes, I was the kid who asked for paper clips and erasers in his stocking. But let's be honest, a lot of us use our phones as much, if not more, than our desktops, so improvements are always welcome. We'll start with iOS. Apple is always eager to put things like new emojis and tap-back reactions front and center when they make announcements about new iOS updates. Maybe I'm just getting old, but that's not the stuff I think is most interesting. So while there are a lot of new features like rearranging home screen widgets and dark mode for icons, we will focus more on work and productivity-related enhancements. Now, Apple Intelligence, which is the blanket term for generative AI features in Apple's operating systems, is rolling out slowly, sort of, depending on your device and Apple's whims, so we won't dive too much into that either, since a lot of its headline features still aren't widely available outside of developer betas. But there are quite a few big quality-of-life improvements in iOS 18 that, even though you probably already have it installed, you may have missed. There's now a dedicated passwords app which makes managing passwords and passkeys a lot more intuitive than diving through Safari preferences like you had to in previous iOS versions. The phone app, which I know for some of us is actually the least used app on the phone, can now record phone calls. If you choose to record a call, that recording is saved into the Notes app. A transcript is generated automatically, and there's a button to generate a summary from the transcript if you would like. In a similar vein, the Voice Memos app now automatically transcribes all of your recordings. I know a lot of people use things like the mobile apps for various AI meeting assistants like Fireflies and Otter just to transcribe their voice notes, but that is now built into the Voice Memos app. And I have to say, it seems really fast from my experimenting with it. The Notes app too gets a few upgrades, including the ability to create a new note from the lock screen. And we also get Math Notes. This lets you assign numerical values to variables and then write out expressions, adding, subtracting, and multiplying them, and Notes will automatically calculate them for you after an equal sign. It also handles unit conversions, and on iPad, you can just write out notes by hand and have them solved for you. Now, the Reminders app is one that I use all the time, and you can now finally view and manage your reminders inside of the Calendar app, making it much easier to see not just what you have scheduled on your various calendars, but all of the to-dos and reminders that you've set up as well. And if you are a Reminders power user, setting up smart folders and subtasks and taking advantage of all the other features, you will now find that subtasks are viewable inside of Smart Lists. So things like your automatically generated today or scheduled or flagged lists will now show subtasks on the reminders therein. The good old Messages app has a few nice improvements too. You can now schedule messages to be sent later. Just tap on the plus button to the left side of the message input box, tap More, and then Send Later. From there, you type the message, choose the time, and schedule it. Messages can now also be sent via satellite if you don't have Wi-Fi or a cellular connection. But probably the biggest improvement is that Messages finally supports RCS. This means that when you are messaging with non-iPhone users, there's now support for higher resolution photos and videos, support for larger file sizes and file sharing, audio messages, real-time typing indicators, read receipts, the ability to send messages over cellular or Wi-Fi, and group chats with mixed iOS and Android users work a lot better too. Which brings us to Android and its latest iteration. Android 15 is rolling out to Google Pixel devices first and to other devices over the coming months. One new feature is theft detection lock. This uses motion and Wi-Fi to detect if your phone has been grabbed and stolen. It only works if you are actively using your phone, so if you are on the side of the street and somebody on a motorbike snatches your device while you're looking at it, it will automatically lock. You can turn this on by going to Settings, Security and Privacy, Device Unlock, and then Theft Protection. There's also now a remote lock option that lets you lock your phone from another device. Now, these features will be coming to older Android versions later, as they are actually built into Google Play services, but they are showing up on Android 15 first. Another very handy addition is Private Space. This is a locked-off app environment that can only be accessed with authentication. You can choose whether or not you want to tie this into your Google account, a different Google account, or no Google account at all. You can turn on Private Space by going to Settings, Security and Privacy, Private Space. From there, you pick the apps you want to be available in the private space. You can also associate a different Google account with the space, so you can have different apps and, in fact, a different user in different spaces. It's a bit like having a way to switch between different user accounts on your devices. And one last small but welcome feature is that the screen recording function now lets you select a specific app rather than just the entire screen when capturing a recording. This is very helpful if you are trying to walk somebody through something but don't want them seeing you switching between everything else that's open or the icons on your home screen. I'm Ned Days, and that's your tech tip.
And now for your moment of concise advice. You know, change is one of those things that everyone supports right up until it knocks on your door. We all think we're adaptable and flexible and ready for whatever it is that needs to happen next until that whatever involves stepping outside of our comfort zone. And most of the time, well, change takes us from comfortable to uncomfortable. That's the nature of change. But in practice, the reality is that change is necessary. And the longer we ignore what isn't working in our law firms, well, the worse the pain becomes. I often think that leading change, making change happen in our law firms, that is the most complex job that most of us have as leaders of our law firms. So I'd like to, for a moment today, talk about the process of moving through change smoothly and how you can make it happen without turning your entire office upside down and inside out. How do you make change happen? Well, I think change is all about communication, frequent, regular, repeated, probably a bit over the top, over communication. So let's walk through it. First things first, you've got to make people feel the pain of staying the same. You've got to communicate that. Yes, you heard me right. If you don't start by helping your team understand why not changing is painful, then you're going to be met with resistance at every step of the way. The status quo, it's a seductive little thing. It whispers softly, why bother? Things are fine just the way they are. But the truth is that you're not looking at what's fine. You're looking at the cracks, the problems, the things that are about to collapse into chaos. That's why you're trying to make change. You're trying to catch these things before the chaos comes. So you've got to get your team to see those cracks, to feel that potential collapse. An example, you want to make a change with your follow-up system for initial consultations. Right now, you're letting these potential clients walk right out the door after that first meeting. You're hoping that they'll come back. And when they don't come back, well, it feels like you're tossing out opportunity after opportunity. That's painful. That's money walking out the door. That's people not getting increases in their compensation. That's their children not getting to go to that special school. That's the vacations cut short because of a lack of funds. You need to make your team feel the pain of that money leaving the law firm. Now, the new system that you want to adopt, it includes scheduling a second meeting before the person leaves the office after their first meeting. You want to send follow-up emails to get the momentum going. You want to have your team make a personal phone call to each of these folks to check in and see how they're going. And you want to track all of that meticulously in a database. That's going to increase closing rates. That's going to increase revenue. But none of that is going to happen. None of it is going to work if your team isn't feeling that pain, that sting of the clients not hiring the law firm. You've got to get them to see why it is that letting those potential clients walk away without follow-up, why it's a missed opportunity, how it impacts the firm's bottom line, and how it impacts your team members. Make them feel the pain. Once everyone feels the discomfort, the pain of staying the same, well, then it's time to bring your team together. Bring the team together to brainstorm solutions and to refine the process. You want your team to feel like they're part of the solution because ultimately they are the solution. Get everyone together and have them work out the step-by-step of how you're going to do this follow-up process, and pick someone from among the team, someone that everyone respects, to lead the process as you go forward. Then refine the process. Have the leader lead, work out a plan, have a second discussion or meeting if necessary. Use email or messaging to refine the steps of the process. And once it's all figured out, once it's understood, once there is an actionable strategy, go ahead and set a deadline for when it will be fully implemented. Make sure that this process, this new system, is fully documented. Treat it like a recipe so that everybody understands exactly how it needs to work. And then roll it out. Have a show and tell. Have team members work together to train one another. Have team members practice scheduling that second meeting and have them work through follow-up discussions. Do role plays and make sure that everybody is on board. Have follow-up meetings as necessary to bring the system to life. And then make it happen. Put the system to work. Start doing the follow-ups. But here's the thing. Keep communicating. This isn't a one and done. You'll need to hold more discussions, more meetings. You'll want to tweak the process. What's working? What's not working? Where are we dropping the ball as we move this thing forward? You want there to be constant communication, constant feedback, always improving this process, making it better and better. And as you move forward, as everyone adjusts to the new process, to the change, keep an eye on how things are going. Make sure that everyone is adhering to the system. It's so easy to go backwards, to go back to the old ways of doing things. So monitor carefully how it's going. Correct things as you move forward. Don't wait for the results to tank before you make adjustments. Keep making adjustments in real time. And all of this, all of what we're talking about here, making these changes, all of it relies on communication. You can't just explain a change in a process once and hope that it sticks. No, you need to be checking in, reinforcing the process, making sure that everyone is in alignment. If there's confusion about what the next step is, about how things are supposed to work, what will happen if you're not communicating is that everyone will revert to the old habits. That will happen so fast it will boggle your mind. Consistent communication, that's what keeps the entire team moving, rowing in the same direction. And then finally, as you're moving this change forward, measure the results, broadcast the results, communicate the results. Is this new follow-up system, is it increasing the closing rates? If it is, then reward the team, celebrate the victory, recognize the success. That will reinforce that the change is making a difference. Now, I picked the consult follow-up process just to illustrate the process of making change. This is not a small change. It's not something like getting a new document scanner, but it's also not a huge, big change. It's not like you're merging with another law firm. It's just a run-of-the-mill change. But I hope you see that this change, all change, it requires management. That's our job. It's our job to make the change happen, to keep moving forward, to keep finding a better way. All change must be managed. Now, change, it doesn't have to be disruptive or painful, but it does need to be intentional. You should think of all changes as change calling for change management. Every change requires you making people see the necessity of the change. Every change involves getting them involved in the process, getting that buy-in, and it involves testing and refining and rewarding, and there must be communication at every step, at every stage. Communication is critical. That's how you turn the dread of change into momentum. That's how you make change happen in your law firm. And that's your moment of concise advice. Wrapping up from Yerevan, thanks for spending a few minutes with me and Ned today. We hope you have a great weekend and an even better week next week. Keep plugging away, moving forward, getting things done. You're on the right track. You'll get there. I promise. We're all in this together, and together we build better practices through better marketing, better management, and better technology. Until next time, I'm Lee Rosen.
Thanks for listening to Your Law Firm. Subscribe to the Friday File at roseninstitute.com and join thousands of lawyers focused on working on, instead of in their practices. You'll find safe, successful, actionable approaches for transforming your firm. Sign up for free at roseninstitute.com.